concerning informal fallacies, there is also a range of error which can be committed in any type of argument. We say the fallacies are errors in logic and reason, or a fallacious argument is an argument which has errors, either the first premise or even the conclusion. So there are a lot of fallacious talking in the streets. People are full of fallacies, talking things that are not scientifically verifiable, and they say a lot of things. We are going back to the national politics very soon. You can see they are shaping up. A lot of fallacies will be heard. A lot of fallacies will come out. And I want to tell you, they will tremble. And you see the English people saying, don't tremble till you troubles you. You can see how fallacious talking, fallacious reasoning, general statement, sweeping statements will be sweeping across. So those are the challenges that are there. So today we are looking at informal fallacies. There is also a range of error which can be committed in any type of argument. These are grouped under the heading of informal fallacies. So it means fallacy is a $10 word for error of reasoning. The first grouping is Pharisees of Relevance. And a lot of them, I had them in the courts. Today they were winding up the BBI case here in the Court of Appeal in Kenya. I could hear a lot of Pharisees of Relevance, to look relevant. I could hear it even yesterday, and but one I've been listening here. You can see lawyers employing a lot of Pharisees of Relevance to become relevant. You bring things that are not logical. You are not a lawyer, but you can tell some of the arguments that are there. I think we are not foolish. We can tell what are Pharisees. Just to remain relevant. Now, these are Pharisees because they change the subject in some way. Yes, you find the people talking. Yeah, they are talking about BBI, the change of constitution. And you start talking about economy. You start talking about the ordinary man or woman. Very good. But you are changing the argument. That's fallacious. To remain relevant. That is Pharisees of Relevance. We could hear them. And we know that is very common. So we were not surprised by the Pharisees of Relevance because that is the Kenya we know. So I want to talk about a few of these. One of them is attacking the person. Okay? Rather than attacking the argument. Another one, we talked about appeal to force. Rather than appealing to reason. The other one can be appealing to pity. Rather than appealing to the facts, to the actual situation. You want people to sympathize. But you don't consider the other person. There is also prejudicial language, where a writer commits this fallacy when moral value is attached to believing or not believing a conclusion. For example, clear thinkers agree that murder is bad. It's a fallacy because it implies that people who disagree are not clear thinkers. When somebody says clear thinkers agree that murder is bad, it's a fallacy because it implies that people who disagree are not clear thinkers. They can be clear thinkers or critical thinkers or creative thinkers, but they don't subscribe to that view. So that is prejudicial. There is also appeal to popularity. A fallacy which is committed when it is argued that because most people believe a conclusion, then the conclusion is true. Now, history is replete with examples of where the majority was wrong. Okay? All that. Now, today, I actually wanted us to look at informal fallacies, these informal fallacies, and say very little that you can see on the screen. Informal fallacies. They are still informal. Now, informal fallacies generally are arguments that are fallacious for reasons other than structural flaws, and which usually require examination of the argument's content. One argument is argument from ignorance. That is, appeal to ignorance, which in Latin we call it argumentum and ignorantium, which assumes that a claim is true or false because it has not been proven false or true, or cannot be proven false or true. The other one is argument from personal incredulity. That is, divine fallacy, or appealing to common sense. I cannot imagine how this could be true, therefore it must be true. Okay? That is simplistic. We call it argument from incredulity. Just because you don't know the other position, that you can't imagine it can't be true, so it is true. That is simplistic, and that's a fallacy. There is argument from repetition. We call it in Latin argumentum and nauseam. It signifies that it has been discussed extensively until nobody cares to discuss it anymore. There is argumentum from silence. That is, argumentum is silentio. In Latin is argumentum is silentio. That is argument from silence, where the conclusion is based on the absence of evidence rather than the existence of evidence. There is also argumentum verbosium. Okay? We shall see it later. There is also begging petitio principii. Petitio principii. That is begging the question fallacy. That is providing what is essentially the conclusion of the argument as a premise. You may start here by pushing us to accept something by concluding what you consider to be your conclusion. There is also shifting the burden of proof. That is, I need not to prove my claim. You must prove it. You must prove it is false. That is shifting the burden. It is you to prove I'm wrong, rather than, and we had it in this court, in BBI courts. Circular reasoning is a fallacy which refers to when the listener begins with what he or she is trying to end up with, sometimes called assuming the conclusion. There is also circular cause and consequence, where the consequence of the phenomenon is claimed to be its root cause. There is also continuum fallacy, a fallacy of the beard, line drawing fallacy, or Sorage fallacy, or fallacy of the hip, or bowed man fallacy. It is actually, the continuum fallacy is actually, I've given so many jargons there. It is simply improperly rejecting a claim for being imprecise. You can be shaggy and you don't want to accept you are shaggy. You may have failed to button your shirt or wherever, and you don't want to be told or reminded that that is the true position, or you've not ironed your shirt. But you want to employ continuum fallacy, where we also call it the fallacy of the beard. You could be going wrong astray. You don't want to be corrected, or you actually want to correct others instead. That is also fallacy of the hip, or bowed man. Muongo wa kipara. Bowed man fallacy. Because fallacy is error in reason. You are trying to defend your position by using, you just reject it. There are also others like correlative fallacies. I don't want to get there, but I just want to get you to the application, and we had promised today. Today was the day of application. Any comment before we start the application?